England, an island set in a silver sea. Our coastline is a playground, a national treasure, a place of history, excitement and holidays. We love our coast. It's one of the best in the world. Yet few of us realise that beneath the waves there are other landscapes as diverse, colourful and as dramatic as anything on land. Every region has its own special undersea landscapes. We'd like to show you some of the best, snapshots of living places under England's seas. All around England, seagrasses are found in sunlit, shallow, sandy bays. These undersea meadows are not made from seaweed, but true grasses, like those we have on land. They provide a place to breed, shelter, and feed for small fish and a host of sea life, including colourful spider crabs and predatory sea bass. Docile creatures, like the seahorse, graze. Here, a pregnant male hangs on with his tail to stop being swept away. It looks like the heather moors of Exmoor or Yorkshire, but it's Merle, undersea moorlands. From the Isle of Wight to the Bristol Channel, parts of the seabed, undisturbed by trawling, are covered in a living layer of different types of red algae. Built up over tens or hundreds of years, Merle is host to a rich variety of sea urchins, fish, seaweeds, sea cucumbers and crabs. This scallop has been here long enough to become part of the landscape. In places like the Wash and Morecambe Bay, tube-building worms create living reefs. Plucking tiny creatures from the sea, the peacock worm feeds using its soft fan of tentacles. Its body is protected in a vertical tube made from particles which it captures in its fronds and then glues together. They help stabilise the sediment, sand or gravel, and are part of a close-knit community of sea creatures. England's own coral coast lies around the southwest peninsula. Pride of place goes to the pink sea fan. Made up of thousands of tiny polyps, this magnificent coral combs the water to find its food. Pink sea fans grow slowly, and large ones may be 80 years old. In some regions, they live in large groups, forming splendid undersea forests. Jewel anemones are as colourful as any meadow of alpine flowers. They thrive where there is good water movement and are found mainly in the west of England. Although they are small, jewel anemones pack together, and by budding off like garden bulbs, they create brilliant multicoloured carpets covering rocks and underwater cliffs. Rocky reefs are found around much of the English coast. Where they are near the surface, they are often coated in waving forests of seaweed and kelp. The reefs are home to fish such as wrasse and are grazed by sea urchins. They provide happy hunting grounds for crabs and lobsters. In deeper water, reefs are often covered in sponges and sea anemones, like white plumose anemones. This curious creature is a cotton spinner, a kind of sea cucumber. It moves slowly over the reef, harvesting its food along the way. The Atlantic Gulf Stream sweeps over our undersea landscapes in the southwest. Its warmth reaches into the Channel and the Irish Sea, attracting turtles. The Gulf Stream brings a rich soup of plankton, satisfying the appetites of a wide variety of creatures, such as this sunfish, and processions of basking sharks, Britain's largest fish. This harmless beast peacefully sieves its lunch out of the water. The tiny animals in plankton are also food for the mackerel, and they in turn are supper for the dolphins. England is surrounded by a multitude of undersea caves. Some reach the surface within cliffs. Others are hidden in deep water. The walls are often cloaked in dense banks of corals and sponges, such as this yellow boring sponge, which bores into the rock face, making numerous chambers in which it develops. In darker areas, dead men's fingers reach out like the hands of long-lost sailors, straining the water for food. Thousands of wrecks lie on the seabed around our coasts. Together they provide a diverse network of artificial reefs, supporting colonies of sponges, hydroids, seaweeds and anemones. Pollock, wrasse and pouting like to live in and around the wrecks. The young pouting are banded, but the adult fish lose their stripes. The vivid cuckoo wrasse patrols the dark hiding places which are popular with conger eels, lying in wait for the unsuspecting. These sea ferns may look like plants, but are in fact animals. Called whiteweed, in the 1950s they used to be dredged up from the estuaries of Essex and Kent to be dyed and exported to America as table decorations. But under the sea they are home to numerous species, including our own unique type of herring that breeds here in the estuaries of the Thames and the Blackwater. Britain has more seals than most European countries. The common seal has a rounded head and is most often seen on the east coast, along shorelines and estuaries. The grey seal has a longer nose and likes rocky reefs and kelp forests. It is common off the southwest, south and northwest coasts, but also breeds in the North Sea. Seals eat almost any fish, crabs or shellfish. England's white chalk cliffs do not end at the shoreline. Underwater, the chalk extends in soft rocky reefs that gives homes to fish and crabs and provides a foothold for algae and waving kelp fronds. Specialist boring molluscs called piddocks riddle the rocks with their burrows. From Flamborough Head, one of Europe's biggest chalk reefs extends for miles in a network of caves and pillars, where octopus hunt and sea squirts, sponges and anemones clothe the rock. Where chalk runs into the sea in North Norfolk, the undersea landscape is cut into a series of parallel gullies. The waves rush in and out. Divers say it's like being in a jacuzzi. Hydroids and red seaweeds cover the walls, and the deeper crevices provide a hiding place for conger eels and lobsters. In the entrance to Morecambe Bay lies a remarkable deep sea pit, the Loon Deep. Long and thin, this mysterious hole was formed in the last ice age, when a huge piece of glacier was forced down into the seabed. Here tides run at up to 1 metre a second. The sides of the deep are clothed in burrowing and dahlia anemones and seabeard. They slope steeply to the seabed, 86 metres below. Here in the gloom live miniature forests of the distinctive peacock worm. Where strong currents sweep smooth seabeds, brittle stars link arms to create a mat. This stops them getting swept away while their arms are held up to catch food from the passing water. Relatives of the starfish, brittle stars, form a heath-like landscape. Crabs also group together to cover the sea floor, like this breeding mass of spider crabs. The Dogger Bank is a vast network of sand dune ridges between England and Denmark. Some dunes tower over 20 metres tall and are home to sand eels, which live buried in the sand or emerge to swim in shimmering silver hordes. Harbour porpoises feed on the sand eels, and upwelling water brings food, which attracts large numbers of fish, such as cod, pollock and sole, as well as diving birds like the guillemot. In the Irish Sea, the North Sea, and especially in the Eastern Channel, we find extensive shingle banks and ancient flooded river valleys from times when sea levels were lower. The gravelly bottom provides ideal conditions for anemones, colourful sea slugs, reef-making worms, brittle stars and scallops, a living community of animals. Huge sandy plains and sand waves cover the sea floor off East Anglia, Lincolnshire, Kent and Morecambe Bay. Where conditions are right, sea squirts establish and sea pens form undersea gardens. Small fish like sand goby, as well as brown shrimp and pink shrimp, are abundant, but they need to watch out for predators like plaice and crabs. Many creatures dig for food and for protection. Our underwater landscape includes many dramatic features. None is more surprising than Mixon Hole off Sussex. Here the seabed suddenly plunges straight down for 25 metres. Some say it's the remains of a sunken Roman quayside. Crabs and lobsters shelter amongst the rocks. Sharks and rays patrol the gravelly bottom. Where sunlight and clear waters meet, nature creates a landscape of undersea gardens. Wrasse tore the rocks and crevices. Cuttlefish like the sunlit seaweed gardens. Found around most of England, they are intelligent and able to change colour to communicate. They have over a dozen different body patterns and are powerful hunters. England's undersea landscapes are amongst the most varied of our natural environments. Unique places that support around 10,000 different species living as thriving communities beneath the waves.